You're welcome to another edition of EDUtalk Show, made possible by the Ministry of Education in partnership with the Teacher Education Journal. We've had a number of exciting and educating episodes in this particular series, and today is no exception. We are focusing National Schools Inspectorate Authority, NaSIA. Today is a turn to sit with them to understand what exactly they do and what we ought to know about the National Schools Inspectorate Authority, NaSIA for short. And thankfully, we've been joined in the studios by Inspector General of Schools at NaSIA. Dr. Hagar Hilda Ampadu is our guest for today. Hello and welcome to EDUtalk.
Thank you for having me.
And I know that having a doctor in the studios, it means that we are going to be having a lot of education today. So let's first get a general overview of what NaSIA is all about.
Thank you for the question. So NaSIA, previously known as the National Inspectorate Board, was established by the Act 778 of 2018. And then in August 26, 2020, we got a new law. Okay. Actually, it was established by the Act 778 of 2008. Permit me to correct it. And then in 2026, we got August 26, we got a new law, the Education Regulators Bodies Act, changing our name from the National Inspectorate Board to the National Schools Inspectorate Authority, NaSIA. When we were NIB, we used to conflict a lot with the bank. So we had challenges, a small organization competing with a big bank for name. So we're happy to have a name change. Now, the Education Regulators Bodies Act 1023 states that we are to develop, publish, and promote the highest quality standards to be observed at the pre-tertiary level of the education system. So that's our core function. So if you think of it in broader terms, then we are the quality assurance arm of the whole education ministry. Okay. So if you are NTC issuing teacher license, we are supposed to ensure that what NTC said they will do is what is being done at the school level. If you are the National Council for Curriculum and Assessment, NACA, and you output a new curriculum, our outfit is supposed to ensure that what NACA said the curriculum should do is what it's doing at the school level. So we look at everybody's mandate and we inspect schools to that mandate. And also, we have our own elements and indicators that we inspect schools by. So that's our core function in brief.
Quality assurance, and that's quite huge, some would say, because you have to inspect all schools and ensure that they're adhering to it. What's the status as we speak in terms of adherence to quality assurance from all these schools, you'd say?
So it's a very daunting task, as you said. Currently, there are about, at the pre-tertiary level, there are about 80,000 schools if you count private schools in addition. And that is unsubstantiated, but that is what we think it's out there. We are in the process of collecting data on private schools. Public schools we know because it's owned by government. By private schools, we are not so sure. So we're in the process of collecting data through licensing of private schools. But then again, we've output what schools need to do in order to ensure quality. And so we have an inspection evaluation framework which sets our quality standards that the schools should go by, and we inspect the schools to that standard. We also do stakeholder engagement and train schools on how they can use those tools to do self-monitoring. So some schools embark on self-monitoring themselves. In terms of, if you're asking me, can we rate the quality of schools in Ghana as of now? In starting this inspection effort, this new inspection effort starting in 2020, we've covered about 8,000 schools so far. And like I said, there are about 80,000 schools. So we have a lot of work to do. For the schools that we've covered so far, we have very varied ratings for them. Some are rating good, some are rating satisfactory, some are unsatisfactory. Those that are unsatisfactory, we give them recommendations on what they need to improve. So in terms of school quality, There are some schools that are doing very well. Some too are really struggling, and ours is support to ensure that they improve on their quality.
How difficult is it to be able to keep up in terms of resources for NaSIA, for instance?
So what we try to do is we have inspectors across the country. So we use what we call the team inspector approach. These inspectors are on contract with us. So usually they are retired teachers, retired head teachers, retired educationists, retired lecturers, etc. We employ them, we train them, we certify them, and they go to inspections on our behalf, and they are in every region. Using that approach, we have quite a good human resource base. Now it comes down to logistics. In 2019, we were able to get cars from the Ministry of Education, pickup trucks, so it's helped us do regional inspections. We are able to go across the country. So in terms of vehicles, as in pickups to do inspections, we have a number. It's not adequate, but it's good enough for us to keep going. So resource constraint is something that we struggle with, like every agency or every institution, but we manage with what we have to cover as much as we can. At every term inspection, we are inspecting on the average about 4,000 schools across the country. So we do our best to cover as much as we can. We don't do a census approach to inspection. We do sampling, which is we select a statistical sample and inspect. We haven't gotten to the point where we could do census, which is inspect all schools. But that is the dream, that one day we'll get there.
We'll get there. Well, but what do you look out for whilst you're inspecting?
Okay. So in our inspections, we are looking at performance of the school. So irrespective of resource constraints, how is the school performing? So we look at the leadership of the school. And then we look at lesson observations. We observe lessons. So the inspectors, usually two, they go in pairs. They will sit in a class at random and observe the teacher teaching and the learners learning to ensure that teaching is happening and learning is happening, because that is what the school is there for.
So are the schools aware when your team are in there?
Sometimes.
Okay.
Sometimes too, it's a surprise. So sometimes we just want to see what happens when no one is watching. There are other times that we inform them that we'll be there, and then we go. But we found out that when we inform them, what we see is not what really pertains when we don't inform them. So sometimes we want to see what really pertains in a normal day-to-day running of a school. They are informed to some extent, but we like to keep the surprise element because we want to see how the schools are run when nobody is looking, because our job is also to support the schools to succeed and improve learning outcomes. It's not to be a police or to go and catch anyone, but to also see the struggles that the school leadership have in running the school, the challenges that they have, and be able to communicate that to the decision makers, that is the Director General GES or the Minister for Education, so that they can provide interventions to the schools if need be.
Do we sometimes have schools, for instance, just coming up to NaSIA that voluntarily they want you to, always come to their school, or you have schools fighting that kind of inspection, even though it's mandatory, they have to undergo it?
We have schools that have actually written to request that we inspect them. We have public schools and private schools that have done same. Private schools for the purpose of the fact that somebody owns it. It's a business, and they want us to go and ensure that what the headmistress or headmaster says is pertaining in the school is what pertains. And perhaps also the students wrote maybe WASI, and their pass rate was not what the proprietor was expecting. So they think that the interventions they have in place are not working. So they want the inspectorate to take a look at their teaching methodologies, etc., to see what we can recommend. So we've had requests like that. We've also had requests from public schools where they want us to come and observe what's happening at the school. Sometimes because they have some very good interventions that are working, so that we are not always looking out for the bad. They want you to come and see that they've put in other interventions that are not in the curriculum or in the standard operating procedures of GES, but it's working for them and something that we can adapt and maybe recommend to other schools. So we've had such requests. We've also had schools that have, when we've issued a report, they've written back to us telling us what they've been able to do with the report. Maybe they've engaged the Parent-Teacher Association or the community for support based on the report. So we get quite a bit of correspondence from schools in that. It's always encouraging to hear from them.
We'll talk about some of the interventions, for instance, and then also the performance indicators, amongst others. But just for clarity, is it the case that NaSIA only inspects or has supervisory role over just the basic to JHS level? Which kinds of schools? How about the Cambridge system? Is it just the GES systems? Maybe you should just enlighten us a bit more about where you go and where you do not go.
Okay. So the Education Regulators Bodies Act that established NaSIA says that we have to register all pre-tertiary schools.
Okay.
So pre-tertiary school is from kindergarten to SHS, public
SHS.
and private, and even TVET schools. So all those fall under our mandate to regulate. So we regulate the public schools owned by Ghana Education Service. We regulate international curricular schools owned by individual proprietors by running foreign curricula in Ghana, i.e. Cambridge, IBO, Lebanese curriculum, Abeka curriculum. There's so many curricula, international curricula that's run on the Ghanaian market that we regulate.
At the last count, do you know how many we have?
At the last count, we had about 14 curricula, international curricula. It was amazing to find out when we started this work that there are so many international curricula. We only knew so much about Cambridge, but there's so many others by other foreign entities that we needed to contact the accreditation bodies to ensure. The one that we are having challenge with is Montessori, because nobody seems to own Montessori, but everybody is running Montessori. That is a big question mark that we have, that we're investigating how we regulate the Montessori schools. Now, we also have schools that run the Ghana Education Service curriculum, which is our national curriculum.
Okay.
Those are in the majority, so we regulate that. So private schools that are running the national curriculum, we regulate that as well. We also have, under the pre-tertiary level, schools that run special curricula. So you can have a school at the pre-tertiary level that runs maybe filmmaking, but it's at the pre-tertiary level. At the tertiary level, it's GTech. So once it's tertiary, we don't touch it. But at the pre-tertiary level, it's us. But sometimes that conflicts with also TVET. So we are trying to look at which ones we regulate and which ones they regulate. But that is what we do. So all schools under the pre-tertiary level, we regulate them.
Okay. Well, there's a myth, or I don't know if it's a myth, but there's this perception ongoing with this increasing love for other curriculum apart from the GES curriculum, with people thinking that once you enroll your ward to undertake the foreign curriculum, they are getting better education than they would get if you enroll them in the GES. I think I would want you to speak to parents and guardians about this thing going on, that once you do Cambridge or the other ones, you are better off than doing the GES.
I think our curriculum and our system also does very well, because we have a lot of students coming out of the public school system that are doing equally well. We have the lady who went to the NSMAQ, National Science and Maths quiz, who ended up in Harvard. Yes, so we have examples to also show that. We have the Prempeh College students who won the robotic. We have the Manfi girls. They are all from public schools. And once you start and end up in a public SHS, which means you started in the public primary school system, like I did. Started from Harrow International School to Abeka for GHS to Wesley Girls. It's a whole public school system that I went to get here. So I think that our public school system is still very good, and we should build confidence in it. It's just that for those who can afford it, they've made it look like it's better to be in the other systems. But we equally are competing for the same job market. We equally get employed by the same employer. So I think ours is also still good enough.
Yes, on that note, we'll take a quick break here on EDUtalk show, made possible by the Ministry of Education in partnership with the Teacher Education Journal. Today, when we return, we'll get talking more about NaSIA and what else they are supposed to do. And when it comes to the performance indicators, when some schools fall foul of the law, what happens to them? You'd want to stay for that. You're welcome back. This is the EDUtalk show right here on this channel. Do well to also visit all our social media platforms and be part of the conversation. Dr. Hagar Hilda Ampadu is my guest, Inspector General of NaSIA, and we've been talking a lot, pretty much exciting conversation. Before we went on the break, we were talking about GES system versus international curriculum, and the issue about fees also comes up. Whilst GES is relatively cheaper, the international curriculum charges different fees, very high. Do we have any control over what they charge?
So for the international curricular schools, they have foreign accreditation bodies that they subscribe to, and the cost is quite exorbitant. They have inspections that they have to follow, that the foreign bodies come to audit them, etc., that they have to meet. So they are within their right to charge some of the costs that we see. Okay. But then you ask, we as government, protecting our citizens, what can we do about it? Some schools just increase their costs every so often, and parents do not have a say in anything, and then they will tell you if you can't afford it, you can go to the school next door. So we are trying to say that, okay, you build the schools just so you could help government provide education to its citizens. These same citizens are paying taxes to the system. So we also have to protect them to some extent. So that is what we plan to do, we can't tell the schools what to charge. Okay. And we can't mandate them to charge a certain figure because they have operating costs. But we can say that, okay, in a given academic year, you shouldn't increase your cost by more than this %. And that is what we are exploring to ensure that parents also get a fair deal in taking their children to these schools. Okay.
Well, you've talked about the performance indicators that you look out for when you go to do these inspections. In the event that certain schools fall foul of it, what happens?
So currently, if a school is unsatisfactory, because this inspection protocol that we are administering currently is still quite new to the schools, we support the schools to improve. What do we do? If it's a public school, work with the Ghana Education Service, the District Directorate of Education, to ensure that whatever resources the school needs to improve, is it posting of teachers for specific subjects that they do not have? Is it making sure that they have resources available to those students? And if there's extra classes or extra intervention that needs to be put in. For now, that is what we are working with Ghana Education Service to help improve. If it's a private school, we also work with the proprietor to ensure that performance improves. Currently, we do not apply any sanctions to schools because we are in the stage where we are building relationships because we are still new to this. So sanctions are in the law that established us, and there are sanctions in the regulations that we have coming up, but we haven't applied any yet. Currently, we are in the process of where we support schools to improve. With time, after doing that for a while, I'll say we are doing customer service now. After doing that for a while, if schools are not improving based on the recommendation, then we'll apply whatever sanctions that the law allows us to apply.
You mentioned the support that you give, and in some cases you mentioned the support in training, amongst others. Are there any other areas that you support these schools that some of them unsatisfactory, amongst others?
So apart from training, and then especially the private schools, in terms of managing their schools administratively, it looks like the Ghana Education Service has perfected how to manage schools because they've been in the business for a long time. And most of my inspectors came from the Ghana Education Service, so they know the rudiments of managing schools. So sometimes when they go to some of these private schools, they sit down with the proprietors to walk them through even procurement activities, how to procure in bulk to save costs, and even bookkeeping. Because some of these proprietors, they are mixing their school fees monies with their personal funds. So they don't know if they are turning a profit or not. Some of these inspectors will sit down with you and walk you through why
all that for free?
Yes, because we are also licensing them and they pay a licensing fee. So in relationship building, we also support. And this is not something that the inspector will put in a report, but the inspectors have relationship with these schools where they support them, acquire resources. Sometimes too, we support them by collaborating, encouraging them to collaborate with GES in terms of resource sharing. Let's say GES is training their teachers at the district where you find your school in as a private school. We encourage you to bring your teachers. There's cost sharing, but the cost is so small for you because GS is the one organizing it. And that's a cost saving to the school. So these are some of the things that we support also the private schools to
But
operate.
as parents, in this entire process, as parents, the learners themselves, like you hear you keep on mentioning the learners, and then the community as a whole, do we have any role that we are supposed to be playing
Yes.
in this whole process?
In our school leadership element, which is what we use to inspect schools when we are measuring the leadership, we speak to the community leaders, we speak to the parent-teacher association, we speak to the board. If in the private school they have a board, in the public schools they also have a governing system. We speak to the governance system. We speak to the students themselves to ensure that what the school leadership tells us is what really pertains.
Okay.
And for parents, you always hear that the students are not doing well and they think they are not getting the results that they should be getting. So we always encourage parents to get involved, to pay attention to what their wards are learning in school. And as you know, our mothers are very busy, and our fathers, they are very busy, so they are not really paying attention to what you are doing. But as part of our inspections, when we engage parents, we encourage them that it will be good for them to pay attention to what is going on and also participate by advising their wards to study and all that stuff. So we also involve parents in our inspections when we go to the schools.
So if we're to find anything wrong with a school, for instance, as a parent, a guardian, or a member of a community, where do I go? What am I supposed to do?
We come to the National Schools Inspectorate Authority. So we have info@nasia.gov.gh that we get a lot of complaints through. So you write to us or an email and just say that, okay, there's an issue. And we get a lot of this, as you can imagine. We get a lot of it in a day. You inform us that there's something we need to investigate. We send inspectors to go and look at what it is immediately. Recently, we got called to a school in Eastern Region where a manhole was open and a 3-year-old wandered into the manhole and died during the raining season. And so for a school like that, we had to close it down for a while for them to improve on the safety of the school because they had a kindergarten. Yet they had an open manhole that was clearly a violation of safety rules. So things like that, as soon as you let us know, we invest. So I will encourage the general public that if you observe anything in the school that you think shouldn't be what pertains in the school, you inform the National Schools Inspectorate Authority. We'll be out there to look at it and make sure that the right things are done.
But this system that you talk about, is it the same as the online information management system that you've recently launched? Is it the same?
Yes, yes. Okay. So if you go on our website, www.nasia.gov.gh, and you click on complaint, it goes straight into our system. You can just type it in there and we'll receive the complaint. So it's the same thing that we have, the system that we launched. So it comes to us, we process it, and then we assign it to an inspection panel.
But let's talk about how it's impacting learning outcomes, how different is make your work, and going forward, what to expect, you say?
So as part of the government's digitalization initiative, we embarked on digitalizing our inspection approach. Okay. So we are paperless in our inspections. Okay. And what has that done? That has saved a lot of costs in human resource, technological resource, and technical resource. Whereas we could, in the paper world, inspect maybe one school per day. You can imagine and the cost involved. Now we could inspect 2-3 schools per day. And also schools are able to log in and enter their own data. Every school in Ghana has a dashboard in the system. Once you have a username and password.
Every school?
Yes, you are able to. So we are still rolling it out and training schools on it. So once you log in with your username and password, you'll be able to see your inspection report. You'll be able to see all the information we have on you that we would like you to see. The hope is that in the very near future, schools will even do self-inspection and post their own report, and we'll just go and do an evaluation.
You trust that they will be able to do a good job?
In other jurisdictions, it's being done. It's part of the regulatory mechanism, but this regulation is quite new to the schools, like I said, so we are doing relationship building, customer service, encouraging schools to come on board. That's why we are not applying any sanctions, making sure schools understand that this is for their benefits. It is not to punish them. So if you're a particular school and we've inspected you, and you just want to assess your report, it's not paper report that you have to go and look for in a file. You just log in, The report is on there. You can see what we recommended. Let's say you want to show it to your PTA. At the PTA meeting, you want to show them what NaSIA said. You can just quickly log in and see. So that is where we are going. Private schools that require a license from us. Currently, once you log in with your username and password and you enter some basic details and then we license you, you get a temporary license online.
Okay.
That most banks require you to show their license, your license to do banking as a private school. So the temporary license will allow you to do all these banking processes whilst you wait for the hard copy license to be printed and sent to you. So all these has cut our processing time by about 70%. So improving efficiencies in the work that we do. So we are grateful to the Vice President, Dr. Bawumia, for launching this system for us back in March, and it's been very helpful in our efforts to improve learning outcomes across the country.
Okay, but is it the case that every single school, at least the basic to the SHS level that is under your authority, are they supposed to have a license before they can start operating? Like, for instance, if someone is watching now, is thinking about starting a school at the basic level, must they get the license before they can start operating, or they can operate and then regularize?
According to our laws and policies, you should contact us first.
Okay.
Let's say you
conceive the idea.
Yes. Let's say you're a well-meaning citizen. You want to establish a school to help government's efforts to provide education to its citizens, because we really appreciate private proprietors who want to embark on establishing schools, because it's an effort to help government. In the Constitution, government is responsible for providing education to its citizens. Where well-meaning private individuals want to support the effort is encouraged, but also we have to do it within the regulation. Yeah. So once you conceive that thought, you have to contact us before you even go to the Registrar General to register your business. Because now if you go to the Registrar General's department and you want to register a business called Hilda Ampadu School, the first thing they will ask is, where's your license from NaSIA? So we have a lot of them coming back and they're now requesting it. So to avoid that, you can come to us first. We'll give you a letter of introduction saying that, yes, you are a prospective proprietor who wants to establish a school, and the first requirement by us is that you register the school as a business. So that's why you come to the Registrar General. So we'll give you a letter. Now, with the school licensing and inspection management system we've implemented, you can just pay 50 cedis and print that letter from the system.
So it's not a tedious process at all?
No. Okay. You just enter a few details and then you print, and then you go to the Registrar General's department and you start registering your school as a business. Then when you are done with that, you come back to us. Then we take you through the inspection processes, make sure you have a site that is appropriate, that you have facilities that can be called a school. We have an inspection protocol that will take you through. And then when we've satisfied ourselves, we give you a provisional license as a new school to operate, so that we can monitor you yearly and see how you are improving.
It's time for us to wrap up, but definitely I want to hear more about NaSIA. So maybe parting words to learners, teachers, the community as a whole, and then proprietors of various schools.
So NaSIA, our mandate is to ensure quality assurance in the education system, as I've said, but we also are a support to schools, to learners, to improve learning outcomes, to school leadership, to help learners improve learning outcomes, to proprietors of private education, to support them for their businesses to flourish and to grow. And we are by no means police people. We are not there to ensure
Even
that...
though you are the Inspector General.
We are the Inspector General, but we are no means a police. We are a support system for the schools. And for the private schools in particular, our mandate is not to close down private schools or to see to it that they do not succeed. Our mandate rather is to support them to succeed, because they are helping government provide education to its citizens. So we want them to see us going forward as their support system. We are not there to police them, but every intention that we bring forth is to support the schools in the hope of improving learning outcomes for our learners.
That's the Inspector General, IGS, of the National Schools Inspectorate Authority, NaSIA, Dr. Hagar Hilda Ampadu, my guest. Thank you, IGS.
Thank you.
I think we should salute you at this point. We are grateful. And that's it for today's edition of EDUtalk Show. It's made possible by the Ministry of Education in partnership with the Teacher Education Journal. I am Emefa Apawu, and that's it for today's edition. Don't forget to visit all our social media platforms for more. Have a good day.